Now, anyone else would normally do a victory dance, right? And or celebrate such an occasion, but Socrates was baffled. He did not believe the Delphic oracle, and so he made it his mission to try and go against what the Delphic oracle has said. So he tried to find someone else, right? How would he go against? He's tried to find someone else who was wiser than him at the time. He had a couple of people in mind that he wanted to examine of sorts and find out whether they were wiser than him or not. After he would examine them, that is, ask questions of others who would say that they know something, they came to dislike Socrates, and others did as well. Neither of us knows something worthwhile. This was Socrates said, right? Neither of us knows anything worthwhile, but he thinks he knows something when he does not. Whereas when I do not know, neither do I think I know. So I am likely to be wiser than he to this small extent that I do not think what I do not know. And with this particular line, talking about how it is wiser to be aware of the limits of your education, of your knowledge, this set a very different course for a different type of philosophy the world had ever seen, the philosophy of knowledge. This is probably one of the most prominent positions that Socrates set up in the field of epistemology, right, which is the field of the study of knowledge itself. He examined men of politics, poets, tragedy writers, and craft persons even. He found out that the politicians were the most deficient in knowledge. For the poets, he said, anyone on the street could explain their poems better than them. So the poets must be inspired and have no knowledge of what they write. And this is something that we've all seen, right? That the poet might be meaning something very literal in his poems, and we are the ones deriving various beautiful explanations for why he used a certain line in his verse. According to him, the craft persons did know many fine things, but thought that because they were good at their craft, that they were experts at everything else as well. And this is something that's prevalent today as well, if you think about it. When you see people giving Oscar speeches, you believe them when they say that they're working for the environment, and they just might as well be. But it is our duty to question whether they know what they're doing. And we sometimes fall short of that question because we believe that if they are good at their craft, then they might be good at what they are trying to be as well, right? So, this is something that has been deep rooted in society for that long a period. Socrates was happy to be as he is and not to be someone who thinks he knows something when he really does not. Because of the oracle, Socrates says, I do not have the leisure to engage in public affairs to any extent, nor indeed to look after my own, but I live in great poverty because of my service to the god. So he takes this upon him to prove the Delphic oracle wrong and find someone who was wiser than Socrates. Now, I can give you the account of what exactly happened in the apology, word to word, with no context whatsoever, but then this is not how we want this podcast to function, right? So let's talk about the charges in a deeper manner. There were not just three accusers actually, but there were many more. The accusers were divided into two categories: the first accusers, or the older accusers, and the later accusers, or the new accusers. The earlier accusers raised the following charges, right? These were raised way back, but then Meritus and these other two accusers raised these charges formally in front of the court. Now, the earlier accusers raised the following charges, right? First, Socrates busies himself studying things in the sky and below the earth. Here, Socrates is basically being charged with concerning himself with inappropriate topics of study, which is to say that he is worshipping non Athenian gods, or he is an atheist and he is exploring these topics as part of his study. Second, Socrates makes the worse argument into the stronger. This is also pointing to his identification as a sophist in the Athenian city, and this was something that was frowned upon at that particular point in time. Socrates corrupts the young by teaching them the above activities. So, if you can see that all these activities are somehow interlinked with each other, They might as well have made one charge against him, but then they decided to divide it up. The later accusers followed up on those charges and they formally tried Socrates in court, which is exactly what the dialogue covers. The later accusers accused Socrates of first, the corruption of the youth, and second, the disbelief in gods. Now, how do you imagine Socrates replied to all this? Firstly, Socrates